those powerful coalitions that we would like to build, trade unions, labor, to convince the Labour Party that they ought to do the right thing. I think one of the big problems we have is that they are listening very hard to business, and they're not listening very hard to us. What we have to do is include business in our coalition, and I would say that one of the things the Living Wage campaign has done extremely effectively is to get business on side by showing them the business case for why they actually are better off in a community that has better pay rates, that people aren't ill because they aren't paid enough and can't eat enough, and that where there is less turnover and people are more productive. And the fact that we have a mass now, 15, 20 finance institutions in Canary Wharf and the city paying the living wage, convinced by this coalition that they should pay the living wage, then means when we go back to Labour and say this is something we want you to do, it's not just the usual suspects, is it?
But the comparative advantage of nobody should be increased by social and environmental dumping. And I mean, we're talking about pressure on costs or plain market failure, as in the case of externalities such as climate change. So what we need to do is find ways to put these. I think a picture that I like to use is that the economy and politics and the economy and society have lost the common language. The language the economy speaks is in monetary terms. Everything that cannot be valued in monetary terms is not included in their calculations at all. And even if it is included and it doesn't conform with their aims, it is a pressure, it is a cost factor that needs to be reduced. So we have a situation where social costs are under great pressure because they are quantifiable in monetary terms, and intangible values that are not quantifiable at all are completely beyond that. I mean, what we try to do, and this is a very important mission for politics at large, is to try to find a mechanism of how we can speak again the same language, how politics can actually include these societal values, because that's what we're talking about, in the economic process. And
why is it that there's no link between the ILO and the WTO, and no fundamental labour rights included within the WTO structures? That's not because there's some natural phenomenon which means the two are incompatible. There's been a political decision by governments, pressured much more strongly by business, that has led to the rules of globalisation that we're playing with at the moment. So I think in terms of what can we do as Europe, I think the first thing is we need to look at the rules of the game for globalisation as they are now and change them. Just as Henry was explaining in terms of redistribution, but there are many things that will take a long time to do, but we shouldn't forget just how powerful the European Union is, particularly in trade terms. It's probably the one area in terms of politics and social policy where the European Union does have significant real power in that it negotiates on behalf of every single member state on international trade. So surely there's a role for the European Union within the WTO process to be looking at the change, the rules of the game, to make the impacts and the implications of globalisation fairer. And the European Union also is signing bilateral trade agreements and what they're terming EPAs, Economic Partnership Agreements, I think they stand for. Now, why is it that the European Union isn't insisting in every case on strong social values, environmental values being included within those economic partnership arrangements?